Hello, you all. It is Teeth, aka Judge Teeth. Hope all are well. Hope all are safe. Okay, now I'm sure I've said this more than once, and I'm gonna continue to say it until it reaches who needs to be heard. But please, please, please protect yourself. And that can be anything. Just being strapped, being armed, and necessary. Or being armed doesn't necessarily mean the actual firearm that takes those hot bullets. There's actually another firearm. It's called the pellet gun. So it's pretty much like an air rifle. So it appears to be a gun, but they use um, little metal pellets. Which now, depending on which one you get, some now they're all dangerous, but depending on the air pellet gun that you get, some are some are lethal and some are not. And like I say, they all are dangerous because, like I say, if it's used the wrong way, it could be dangerous. If point at people's face, that can be dangerous. Um, but not all pellet guns, not all of them penetrate the skin. Some of them are just, they just look like a gun. They'll give you the pop and maybe give you a sting or maybe enough to just get you, you know, just enough to hurt you, not necessarily enough to kill you. And I only say that because you'll get some people who either they're afraid of firearms or they can't get their hands on real firearms just because perhaps they have a felony or mental issues, whatever the case may be. But nonetheless, that does not mean that you still don't need protection. Because I could be your biggest felon this side of hell, but just because I have a felony doesn't mean that I don't need or deserve protection. So, and even if your biggest criminals, if they're armed and dangerous, then where does that leave you? So I don't understand why. I mean, I get it as far as understanding who has weapons and who the weapon belongs to, as far as keeping track of, being responsible as far as keeping track of your weapons. Okay, I have a firearm, it's registered in my name, so you'll know who this firearm belongs to. But at the same time, I don't understand the process of, okay, well, you can't have a firearm because um, maybe it's because of the whole paperwork thing. I think has a lot to do with it. Okay, if you don't have the proper paperwork, and again, I understand that too, because if something happened with this firearm, you need to know where it came from and who it belongs to. But at the same time, just because I have a felony or because I have a mental problem doesn't mean I don't deserve protection. So I guess for those who cannot or do not want to or are afraid to get their hands on real firearms, your next alternative will be the pellet guns, which is the air rifle. Some are in handgun style, and then you get, I guess they come in different ones. Like you get the handgun style, the shotgun style, and maybe even school shooter style. But they're pellet guns, so it's not illegal to have for someone who has felony or mental problems, so to speak, because you'll get a block from your state if you have any type of issues where they feel like, okay, you may be a threat. So they'll say, hey, no firearms for you. Again, so like I said, and if you are the type of person, well, damn, if I get my hands on a gun, I just may, you know, be a school shooter. I understand it from that aspect, but when it comes to people who, you get your single mothers, your elders, and you get women with children, um, you, even though a lot of women, they'll say, well, damn, I'm not going to have a firearm because there's children here. Like, okay, if it's just you there and you want to take that risk, then that's you. But most of the time when you have children, it's not about you anymore. It is about those children. So if you have to protect those children, you need to be responsible with that firearm. That doesn't mean don't have one. Just have it set to where your children can't have access or can't reach it. But only you have access and only you can reach this firearm when needed. Because like I say, if it's just you and you want to take the risk of not being armed, then that's just you. And that is what it is when it comes to you. When you have children, you have to go out of your way to protect your children. So you may not like firearms or want them or need them. Um, but when it's just not you that you have to protect anymore, it's you plus some, you're going to have to do what you have to do to protect your family. So that's why I say you don't necessarily have to get a real firearm. But these pellet guns, they do appear to be real firearms. And like I say, they probably won't necessarily give you the effect of a firearm, just depending on which one because you'll get some of them. I don't know if it's called PSF, but it's basically that it'll show you the speed. You'll get some of them where they can go far and long. Like, okay, it's going to come at you fast, and they can reach up to like 400 feet. And you'll get some of them that, okay, it's just going to leave a bruise, and some of them they really are going to penetrate the skin. They're going to, if you get shot in the leg, it'll go in one side and come out the other one. And these are pellet guns, and it probably just depends on how close you are with it, but depending on the power of that pellet gun, that'll determine lethal level of it. Like, okay, this is just something just to get you off of me, or this is something that's going to actually put you down, you know. And I'm saying this is a different day and age now. Like I said, you have to protect yourself, you know, and you don't know who's after you, you know. People these days, or these stories that I've been hearing about, all of these attacks, people are being attacked by people who they know, people who they're in bed with. So if I'm getting attacked by people who I know, my neighbors, family, friends, or spouse, then what the hell do you think these strangers, the strangers on the streets, have for you? You know, so it's like, that's why we can't. This is not the time to have your guard down, or to think that it won't happen to you. Because as long as you're here on this planet, and as long as you're open, like if you appear to be vulnerable, or if you're vulnerable in this world, then you are going to be a target. And it's something about women by themselves and women with children. It's something about women with children. I feel like women with children are number one on the list, because it's like, if I'm robbing you, there's nothing you can do when you got that baby on your hip. Most of the time, you're just gonna give me the bag. You know, somebody have a gun to your head, give me your doggone bag and purse. You're gonna give them that damn bag and purse, because what do you look like fighting with somebody when you literally got a baby on your hip? You got a kid in the stroller, one in the car seat. So it's like, you have to diffuse that situation fast. So most of the time, you are gonna fold under pressure. So with that being said, you must protect yourself. You're elder, and they'll think like, oh, okay, well, I you know, have a bad knee or whatever. You're really going to be a target, because they're like, okay, well, I know you're not really going to do anything. And I'm not saying that some elders don't stand up for themselves, but certain people are certain targets. And the reason why I push the whole firearm thing, because a lot of people are like, well, I have a knife, or I have a bat. That's good too, but let's say like you have a twisted ankle or a twisted wrist, and someone kicks in the door, and do you really have time, or can you really afford to be scuffling with them? You got one arm, one leg, or, you know, and it caught you by surprise. You don't really have time to fight with someone that's in your house and trying to strangle you because they're in your bedroom. And, you know, so it's like, sometimes you have to nip the problem in the bud right away. And the only way to do that is to use force in a firearm manner, you know. Because you could be a martial art artist. Okay, I can kill people with my eyes, or one hitter quitters. But again, if you got a sprained wrist or a sprained ankle, is it really going to be that easy to go against one or two people? Hell, even two people. Let's say there's two people. You can fight, but can you fight two or three people coming at you with bats, or, you know? When you get that firearm, that's going to help minimize your threat a lot. And especially if they have a firearm. Nothing keeping them from having a firearm either, though. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you got to match that energy. You have hands and feet and fists, and they have a firearm. So that means if you have a firearm, that's going to even out that playing field, to where, okay, they at least know that I have a gun too. So that means they're going to, just the sight of even seeing it, whether it's a pellet gun or a water gun, whatever it is, the sight of seeing that gun, they're going to know, like, okay, well, damn, this person is armed. So it's like, okay, most of the time that probably will get them to back off, or sometimes that'll get them to back off. Just the sight of it. You don't even necessarily have to use it half the time. But if they know that you're armed, they're like, well, damn, it's kind of, you know what I mean? It kind of makes the playing field even, instead of it being, oh, I got a leg up on you because you're just a single mother, or just an elder, or you're just by yourself, you know. Yeah, but just please consider that. And like I said, just do your research on pellet guns. I think they call them air rifles. They have different names, but it's basically like, it's an air pressure gun. So it's the pellets are used by air pressure. So it's air that's shooting out those little pellets versus whatever's used to shoot out the bullets in a real firearm. But like I said, if you do your research on them, you can get yourself a really nice and a really effective pellet gun. And they have some that's just strictly for self-defense, and some of them that are they use those in hunting too. So that means there's some of them that are powerful enough to where that literally is a gun alternative. And like I say, it's good for people who are actually afraid of real firearms, and for those who can't get their hands on real firearms due to, you know, being a felon or perhaps having mental problems. But like I say, I understand some people say, well, why would you encourage people who are felons? But it's like, if your biggest criminals have weapons, then anybody should have weapons anyway. You know, because there's no such thing as saying like, okay, only criminals can carry weapons, but if you don't have your papers, you can't have a weapon. And like I say, if that's the case, I'm not saying don't do things the right way, but if you can't do things the right way, there are alternatives. So I'm saying, just take the alternative. You can still be responsible, but don't be a fool at the same time. But anyway, I hope all are well, hope all are safe, and all right, take care.